How do we engage 21st century learners in HSS to ensure that they develop the appropriate geographical understanding, skills and desire to act? McInerney states that 21st century learners are interested in real stories, connecting with others, being active citizens, greenness and sustainability, customising their education and being a resourceful learner. These points and the teaching perspectives presented specifically in the Geography Australian curriculum, ACARA, support Reynolds' opinion that inquiry approaches are at the centre of the study of HSS, emphasising the benefits these approaches have for 21st century learning. What is inquiry-based learning? It is a systematic and sequenced approach to learning that focuses on creating authentic learning experiences in which students ask questions and work together to arrive at solutions to their problems, during which the teachers act as facilitators rather than instructors. Inquiry-based learning approaches were coined in the 1960s and are primarily based on constructivist theories of learning. The leading theorists in this area were Piaget, Dewey, Vygotsky and Brunner. They advocated that learners build their own knowledge, incorporating new knowledge into constructs that are already established. They agreed that learning requires an understanding, which learners should be able to demonstrate through the 6 facets of understanding. Although being around since the 1960s, inquiry-based learning is still referred to as an innovative pedagogical approach to teaching. This is largely due to the fact that it is not widely utilised by schools. The lack of use could be tied down to some of the underlying assumptions that inquiry learning approaches don't deliver the necessary content, that students don't learn best through minimal instruction, and that not all students are engaged and therefore do not learn. When teaching using an inquiry approach, it is advocated by Churchill et al., Reynolds, ACARA and Gordon, teachers ensure that learning is a balance of explicit instruction and student-directed learning. This is supported by the constructivist view of learning being a shared responsibility. When looking to implement this learning approach in HSS, it is essential that a teacher has a deep understanding of the discipline's content. Also in HSS, it is important that the teacher guides the student through the 5 E's: engage, explore, explain, elaborate and evaluate, allowing them to fully experience the big idea from a variety of different perspectives. The inquiry process is enhanced through the teacher's ability to flexibly adjust their guidance to ensure that students are actively engaged and moving sequentially through the inquiry processes. All of these experiences, teaching approaches and strategies, are building upon the student's understanding with the aim of developing transferable knowledge and skills, such as predicting, hypothesising, generating questions, engaging in dialogue, and synthesising findings. To help explain some of the inquiry-based learning approaches, think of a family of 4 children. Now let's name them. There is project-based learning, problem-based learning, learning by design, and action research. As with any siblings, there are noticeable similarities, but all are able to stand alone as individualised learning approaches. The HSS discipline approach being used will affect the effectiveness of an inquiry-based approach. In history, project-based learning allows the students to look at what has been done and then create something in response to the investigation project, which reflects their developing understandings, knowledge and skills. Whereas in civics and citizenship, action research or problem-based research allows for the students to become actively involved in real-world problems, which they find resolutions to act upon. Economics and business would benefit from the implementation of a problem-based learning approach. And finally, in geography, PBL or participatory action research best allows students to explore the concepts of place, space, environment, interconnection, sustainability, scale and change. Let's change the question. Using the Australian Curriculum for Geography as a tool and a reference, in determining processes of which approach is more effective. The overview provided by the Australian curriculum possesses and outlines many components of both approaches. Through the PAR approach, students are more likely to be involved in service learning, community-based learning, or research-based learning, and students always take action in the final stage of the approach. According to Savin Baden and Wimpany, PAR converts those who engage in its process into thinking and feeling persons. Although possessing many positive qualities, PAR also has limitations. It is harder to assess due to the community and group nature of the research process. The class size, larger being bad, affects the success of the approach. There is limited research in this area, and importance placed on the success of the action stage increases the risk of detrimental effects on the learner's confidence, self-esteem, and learning. PBL takes more of an investigative stance to learning, with the ability for action to be taken as an end product. PBL makes learning more stimulating for students. Therefore, they are motivated to seek and participate in greater social interactions. Students learn through being engaged in the investigative process, as they are being scaffolded and encouraged to become active and lifelong learners. Pawson et al. States that one could argue that the technique is ideally suited to this discipline since, by its very nature, geography is already interdisciplinary. However, it is important to look at the concerns and limitations of the approach. PBL is dependent on the learner's prior knowledge being correctly scaffolded in order for them to fully engage in the investigation. This means that teachers are required to have the appropriate level of pedagogical content knowledge. It is also an area for debate, as many people are turned off by the reduced content learnt by students and that the success of the approach has not been vastly proven. Both approaches are very similar, with the pros and cons not outlining a huge difference in the benefits or limitations. Looking at a typical K-6 classroom and links to the curriculum, PBL would be more the suitable teaching approach to engage students in explorations and investigations of geography.